Welcome to The Beauty Shift, proudly sponsored by Keranique, America's #1 hair regrowth system created by women for women. I'm Michelle Phillips. I'm a celebrity stylist and beauty expert, a national TV personality, and self-confidence coach. And over the years, I've worked with some of the most recognized faces in the world, helping them look and feel their absolute best inside and out. That ultimate inner, outer wow. Now that's true beauty, my friends. Welcome back to The Beauty Shift. I'm your host, Michelle Phillips, and I'm so glad you're joining me today because today's episode speaks straight to the heart. Typically, as women, we spend time taking care of everyone else and we put ourselves on the back burner. We push through, we show up, we stay strong, but somewhere along the way, we lose sight of something very important, our own well-being. Our mind, our body, our spirits, they deserve just as much love and attention and care that we give to others, right? That's exactly why I'm so excited to be joined today by two extraordinary women who are redefining what it means to make time for yourself. Heming Willis and Helen Christoni, the founders of Make Time Wellness. Emma, who many of you may know as a highly successful model, entrepreneur, and the wife of the beloved actor Bruce Willis. She has been incredibly open about her personal journey and Bruce's diagnosis with dementia. And through it all, she has learned firsthand how vital it is to carve out time for your own wellness, even in the midst of life's greatest challenges. Her passion now is helping women, especially caregivers, reclaim their health, their confidence, and their peace of mind. Helen's journey is equally as inspiring. After heartbreaking loss of her grandmother and mother-in-law to dementia, Helen has recognized the urgent need for women to prioritize brain health. You know, in a world that often focuses solely on outer beauty, Helen saw a gap and she made it her mission to fill it. So together, Emma and Helen founded Make Time Wellness, a brand built on the belief that beauty, brain health, and well-being are deeply connected and that you deserve to make time for all of it. So today's conversation is all about listening to what you need and loving yourself enough to make time for it. So if you've been feeling the pull to pause, to breathe, and to put yourself back on the top of your to-do list, this episode is for you. Please join me in welcoming Emma Heming Willis and Helen Christoni to The Beauty Shift. Helen, Emma, welcome to The Beauty Shift. Thank you so much for taking your time out of your busy schedules to join us today.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having us.
Really excited.
This is a very important topic and one that I'm very, very excited about discussing with you because I feel like there's such an emphasis, for women and their health and wellness. And of course, the outer beauty part is what most women tend to focus on and really not prioritize brain health. And the statistics are startling that the odds of women developing dementia or Alzheimer's are very high. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, when we really started learning about brain health, I think Emma and I were both super shocked when we learned that 1 out of 5 women here in the United States are at risk of getting Alzheimer's, and that 2/3 of the Alzheimer's patients currently in the US are made up of women. And it's just something that we hadn't heard before. And we are really passionate about just talking about that so women know.
This isn't just something for women that are older, like much older. This is affecting women at younger ages.
Yeah, and there's so much that women go through that it's a little, we're much different than men. And we have all the different periods of our life when we go through different hormonal changes, which all impact our brain. And so it's, and as we know, that's happening in some cases earlier and earlier for both young women and as their girls are maturing, and then also women in midlife. So really important topic for everybody. Everybody needs to start thinking about their brain.
I think the other thing that people don't understand about Alzheimer's is that it can develop in your brain 20 to 30 years before you actually get a diagnosis. So it's very important that we educate our kids and these young adults in the world about brain health, because no one is talking to women about brain health, which is why we're here today.
So is it reversible if you start to do the things to take better care of your brain health?
I don't think that you can reverse it, but I think that there are possibilities now that we know with studies and just how far brain health has come. I think now they're saying 40% of those cases can be delayed or prevented. And what's great about the delay is that you can also then, see where science goes and, where there might be treatment, there might be cure later on down the road. So it's really about, being the brain health awareness conversation is so important because it can really shift this conversation.
And people don't realize that you start losing your short-term memory at like 30, that's very young. And so I just think that, our brains are our best asset, and it's super important that we all just think about it as it relates to our health. We just need to start thinking about it, and a lot of the rest will fall into place.
And I know your story, Emma, started after you had a baby, which is a total hormonal shift as well. How did you, because I know you went to your doctor and they just kind of said, you had a baby, but it really affected you. So how did you start on this path of really saying, wait a second, something's not right?
Yeah, I mean, to be dismissed by my doctor multiple times, when I'm going in with a symptom of brain fog and forgetfulness, and him just saying, "Ah, yeah, you had a baby, or you're not getting enough sleep, or you're stressed." And okay, maybe, but over time that just wasn't landing with me anymore, and I really needed to figure out like what is really happening under the hood. And it brought me to a specialist, a brain health doctor. And at the time, I'm pretty up to date on wellness and what's happening. So to learn about brain health and that there are things that we can do to improve our cognitive function, I thought was so interesting to me and not something to sit on. I felt like it was so important that, when Helen and I started talking, that like we need to get this out there. If I didn't know about it, there's so many other women that don't either.
There's so much emphasis on taking care of our health, but we don't really hone in on brain health and the importance of that. That's not something I think I've ever had a discussion with when I've had time with my doctor.
It's also a very male-dominated industry, and so most of the studies have been done on men, and most of the category is very kind of that marketing is male-driven, and so there's the brain health supplements that were on the shelf, especially when we started Make Time Wellness, were all geared towards that male consumer, and there was nothing talking to women. And women are so much more at risk. And I mean, that's one of the reasons that we started the brand.
Let's talk about Make Time Wellness and how you are offering different products and supplements to really help women on this journey to improving their brain health.
So when I started on this brain health journey of understanding, this new type of lifestyle, the doctor that I was seeing, he put me on a ton of different types of supplements that were really working. I had said to Helen, like, I'm seeing such a difference. The issue is like the supplement fatigue and how it's really not sustainable over time, not for myself to be able to be on this regime like 3 times a day. It's hard. It's hard to take handfuls of vitamins multiple times. So I said to Helen, I said, I would love to be able to take these supplements and turn it into like a drink that I could have 1 time a day that covers all of my bases. And Helen was like, that's exactly what I can do. She's like, that's my wheelhouse.
Yeah, and so we did it. We really kind of went out there and created this all-in-one supplement that really kind of checked all the boxes for women that it was not on the shelf, and we could not find anything like it. So when we really brought in a great science bench and we went out and we actually cherry picked what we'd love to have in this drink of ours. And so, and we started brain first. And so we're really into brain, body, and beauty in that order. And so we have, cognizin, which is a great nootropic, and it's highly studied for women, which is really important to us. We added curcumin, which has just been traditionally used for so long, and it's got so many benefits. And I think one of my favorite things about curcumin is it's an anti-inflammatory. You're not really supposed to say that, but I'm going to say it. It like reduces inflammation, and people have been using it for years and years, and it's awesome. And also really great for your brain. MCT oil for energy. A really beautiful women's multivitamin stack, which I thought was super important because nobody really takes their vitamins, and it's so vital for us as women. And then also we have green tea in there. It's a great antioxidant. And then we loaded it up with a hair, skin, and nail formula. So really brain, body, and beauty. And you don't have to think about it. You just take this, you take a drink or you make some make time water every day, and you're checking off all your bases.
I love the idea of just a drink, and it's once a day.
Yeah, you just take it in the morning, and you can put it either like people love making make time water. They just throw it in their big Stanley, and they just their first big, water bottle they're doing during the day, they're making time with it. And then we also call it our grown-up tang. Like you can throw it in just a glass of water and drink it like that. It's very easy.
Overall, combined with the supplements, what are some of the other things that we can do to really start to take care of our brain health?
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's the brain health pillars, right? And for me, that is nutrition, making sure I'm getting the omega-3s and healthy fats, supplementation, movement is really important. So, if that's cardio, if it's hiking, that's really great to get blood flowing to your brain. Sleep is very beneficial. When you sleep, you're throwing the trash out of your brain. It's really important to try. I think Helen and I have our Aura ring,
Always.
always tracking our sleep just to try, because that is really important for your brain health. I would say like mental engagement is really important, and being able to be amongst your friends, community, and then also learning how to make time. So make time is a movement, and we're really we want to get the world thinking seriously about women's brain health, but we also want women to learn how to make time for what matters to them. And, I think that it's different to self-care, which feels a little too broad now. And I think like the beauty industry has kind of taken over that term.
Yeah.
And for us, I think like this idea of making time feels very actionable. How, what is it that we like to do with our time? What do we want to make time for? And that's how I'm practicing my brain health. And what I've realized is that when I put those pillars into place, the rest of my body benefits. So I'm not just looking after my brain, I'm looking after my whole body. And again, we're talking about exercise, nutrition, supplements, connection. Your whole body benefits from that, which has really simplified my health. I think that routine, big time.
I just want to take a quick moment to thank our amazing sponsor, Keranique, the go-to brand for women's hair growth solutions. If you're looking for healthier, thicker, more beautiful hair, no matter what hair concerns you have, Keranique has got you covered. Their products are clinically proven and dermatologist recommended, offering a complete hair care system, including treatments, shampoos, conditioners, and supplements to help you achieve stronger, fuller looking hair from the inside out. So whether you're starting your hair growth journey or maintaining gorgeous, healthy locks, Keranique has a solution for you. And as a Beauty Shift listener, you get 25% off site-wide. All you have to do is head over to shop.keranique.com and use the promo code BeautyShift25 at checkout. Thanks again, Keranique, for supporting the Beauty Shift and helping women everywhere feel confident and beautiful. So now let's get back to the show. When you were both talking about self-care and like you just mentioned, Emma, there's such an emphasis on this in the beauty industry, and everybody's talking about self-care and self-love, which is very important. But I think what's happening is people are kind of thinking, oh, okay, is this selfish? Especially as women, we're programmed to take care of everyone else first and put ourselves in the back burner, because if we don't, we feel guilty. And then the other thing is that self-care is not just taking a bubble bath and lighting some candles.
Mhm.
Self-care to me is making sure I get out the door and go to my exercise class. And I love the class because I like to see my friends, and I like the women camaraderie and being held accountable and all that type of thing. But for each person it's different, and both of you, I've read that you both feel the same way. It's kind of like, yeah, we have so much on our to-do lists that taking a lot of time for ourselves is not necessarily going to happen
Yeah.
because it's not realistic.
I think this idea that taking time for yourself is selfish is old, right? Like, I think that when you take time for yourself, that's what's like self-preserving. I think it's the opposite of that. I think it's important to, be mindful, and to look after ourselves. And we put everyone on top of our list, and we always put ourselves, last on the list. It's not going to work. Like, the whole system is not going to work if we are not caring for ourselves.
Yeah, and and this just gets back to the 1 out of 5 statistic. Women aren't winning against Alzheimer's. And one of the reasons is because we're not resting and we're not making time for ourselves. We're, in this grind culture, myself included, and we're always doing for others. We're the caregivers, the care partners, the caretakers, and we are just not like prioritizing our needs. And so I think, like, when we started Make Time, like, you got to put making time in your calendar. It has to be something that you're just like, okay, like, I'm going to make time for lunch. Right? Imagine that. I'm going to make time for that morning walk. I'm going to make time for my fitness. Schedule it. Schedule your whatever it make time means for you and for those listening, whether it's a book, a recipe, chatting with a friend, just put it on the calendar.
And for those who are caretakers, I was at one point in my life when my dad was sick with colon cancer. I took off work for a while to help assist with taking care of him. And I know how difficult it is for a lot of people out there who are not only sometimes taking care of children, but also taking care of their parents or their loved ones at home. And I know you both have gone through that, and you are going through that now, Emma. Um, so the majority of women that I know at my age are in that place right now. And so, what advice do you share for people who are going through that, and particularly women, because women don't take time to take care of themselves. And if they don't, and they're taking care of others, it could be extremely detrimental to their health.
Yeah, I think that women have a tendency to not ask for help. And we try to take it all on ourselves. And I was completely guilty of that until I learned, until I was actually given permission from, an expert that I was speaking to, a dementia care specialist, who was like, you have to ask for help. You cannot do this journey alone. It is important for you to lean in on your community, on your family, on your friends. And that really shifted things for me when I was given the permission and I understood that, like, oh no, I do need to extend this out to our network of people that love us and want to show up for us. So I think, I think it's important that women out there understand that, like, you're not a failure if you ask for help, that it is actually so important to be able to sustain the journey of a care partner. If you are doing it on your own, it's really not going to work. And I know a lot of women do, and they don't really have the choice sometimes, but it is really important to see where you can sort of fill in those gaps and be able to get as much support as you can.
Are there a lot of resources out there that women or even anyone who's a caretaker is offered typically from physicians or people in the healthcare business? Are you finding that this is readily available for people?
Should I take that?
Yeah, I think this is
Oh,
the. Yeah, I learned all this from Emma. This is an Emma question.
okay.
This is like a porter heart into this book, so I'm going to let her take this.
No, there is not many resources readily available. And I think that is where we are doing caregivers such a disservice. And, for me, I have written this book. It's called The Unexpected Journey. And it really came out of this idea of, or understanding that really, when we left the doctor's appointment we left with no hope, right? No direction, no nothing. And there really is not a lot of resources. And you have to really go and search and find. And when you're caregiving, you don't have the time to do that. I was lucky that I was able to put this sort of support system around and connect with incredible experts and specialists who I've featured in the book to be able to share their information with the next caregiver. So yeah, there's not many resources out there, unfortunately. I'm trying to change that.
Yeah, and I think it's so important that we celebrate, the care partner, the caregiver. I lost my grandmother to dementia, and the last time I saw my grandmother, she was in a facility in Connecticut, and I just remember walking out of this facility and knowing it was the last time I was going to see my grandmother. And she had no idea who I was really, but she did know that she needed to brush my hair, and she got a hairbrush and brushed my hair, and it was the most beautiful thing. But what really sticks with me, the woman that took care of her there, and she just threw her arms around me and let me cry. And it was so like all the beautiful people, whether they're taking care of their family or if they're working in this field, like it's so important we celebrate them and really lift them up because they're doing really beautiful work. And so I think I'm so excited for Emma's book and to just really continue to celebrate everyone that's going through this. Everybody knows somebody, like you said.
Emma, so your book is really to help people by providing them not only the support, but resources possibly, for them to tap into.
Yeah, and hope, that I'm a lot more hopeful than I was originally.
Yeah.
And I never imagined that I would get to a different side of this. It's not all, darkness and gloomy. And of course it does feel like that sometimes, but there is good that has come from something awful. And I think that's the hope. And that's what I'm trying to convey in this book, because it is a very isolating and sometimes it feels very singular. But, I just want the next caregiver to understand that they're not alone. And that there are people out there that, want to help.
And to get to that better place that you're talking about. And do you feel that that's really about the support that you've received?
100%.
Yeah.
Definitely. It's about community. It's about, family. You really do need to surround yourself with that in order to thrive, not just survive.
And I know not only do you have your book coming out, but you two have a podcast.
We do. We're in our
We're in our podcast room.
I see that. I love it. Talk about your podcast.
I think like for the Make Time Pod, we just kind of decided one day we were going to start a podcast. And I think what's fun about it is they're really tight little interviews with experts, and we get right in it. We really ask all these experts that we interview for actionable tips, how women can make time for different things in their lives. And it can be for anything from like working out, meditation, dating. We've learned so much from the people we brought on the show. And so we're really excited just to keep sharing with anybody who wants to listen how they can make time.
I really love how you're honing in on the holistic, part of brain health. It's not just what you eat, it's also the supplements you're taking, it's the way that you're taking care of yourself. Helen, I wanted to ask you about, I saw on Instagram you were talking about the importance of the water you're drinking. And this really intrigued me because I think there's so much emphasis on what we're eating, but not necessarily what we're consuming when it comes to just our everyday water. About that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, we can't ignore the toxic burden, and it's so imperative when we're talking about brain health. And like for instance, for the water, microplastics is such a huge issue right now, and there's a direct correlation with the amount of microplastics that we're ingesting as a society with dementia and Alzheimer's. So the water you drink, the air you breathe, both two very important factors as it relates to our cognitive health. So, and we're so susceptible, and it's something that we just don't think about. And so I really am a very strong advocate wherever possible to reduce the toxic burden. And it's just part of the lifestyle. You need to look around, you need to make time to make some small changes, but they're all very meaningful.
Yeah, and what is something that you can offer women to do to just start today? If it was one thing towards improving your brain health, first I'll ask you, Emma, and then I'll ask you, Helen, to share what your one thing would be.
For me, I think it's awareness, like tapping into like, how are you feeling? You know, and if something is coming up, speak to your doctor, or just know that there are really simple steps, very easy, actionable steps that you can do to start looking after your brain health. Again, it doesn't have to be scary. There's everything. There's so many like wonderful things to do that can really help.
For me, I really think, like I have to work at making time. Like I'm that girl, I'm always, I have, 12, 13 meetings on the calendar. I'm always running from here to there. I do not do this naturally. It is not natural to me. So I have to really make time to move every day, because if I don't, then I just implode and I stress out. I get anxiety. I feel like my brain's burning. It's a thing. So yeah, I need to make sure that I move every single day. Like when we started this podcast, you said you really aim to work out every day. I'm the same way. If I don't move every day, it's very detrimental to my brain health. And I'm going to add just one more. I'm going to double click. I also think it's really important that you give yourself brain breaks and just take 5, because sometimes, like when you're rushing from thing to thing, you're just like, when you feel like that, like it's a sign to just give yourself 5, and whatever it is, like call somebody, just take a break from whatever you're in. I'm really big on brain breaks.
Yeah, get out. Yeah, go for a little walk.
Yeah.
Get some sun on your face, fresh air.
Yeah.
So important.
Yeah. I totally agree. I hope my husband can hear. He's in the other room because I'm like, I didn't move today. I've been at my desk all day, and then I'm not fun to be around.
Same.
It helps me just everything calm down. I sleep better. My body feels better. My brain, I feel clearer.
Mhm.
But something that you're bringing up, Helen, when you were talking about giving your brain a break, I was just thinking about all of the devices that people are on, and it's a constant, I feel like our world is becoming very ADD because of all of these things that we're constantly streaming or looking at your phone or your computer. We never stop. And I feel like sometimes that's my issue too, that I've got way too much stimulation going on.
Yeah.
What do you think about the younger generation and how this is really going to affect them?
And especially with AI now, it's a whole thing. And so I think that really making time for connection is super important. And actually,
Unplugging.
And talking, like just talking out, like not texting, not calling. I mean, calling's good, right? We like calling, but I think just getting in the room and having a talk, and also I really love to connect with my husband. It's something that we've been doing recently. I make time to go for a walk with him and connect, and we leave the phones at home. And I think that kind of for a while with cell phones, people were like putting them on the table and having like a no tech zone. I think we really need to go back to that, especially for our kids. Like they need to have tech breaks. Really important.
Exactly. And they copy what they see at home more outside of the home. My children are grown now, and I love that they have really good self-care habits that I didn't have when I was younger, because I really needed those when I was a parent and had my kids at home. I'd be like, everybody, time out. We're all going to read because I need a break and I need to read. And, those are things now that I see my daughters both. They're in their late 20s and early 30s, and I'll call them up. What you doing? I'm reading. And so, it's really important that I think as parents, we realize that what we're doing is shaping and molding our kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, tech hygiene is so important. I have 2 young kids, so we have a 10 and a 12-year-old. So we practice that. It's not that they don't have iPads, they do, but they have allocated times where they can be on it. Sometimes are they on it, a little bit more than they should be? Yeah, sure, it happens, but then you just reset. But yeah, it is really important to teach them that type of hygiene. And, even for myself, at the end of the night, it's really about turning my phone off, 30, 40 minutes before I go to bed, and that I just pick up a book and read. I love reading, and I was so disconnected from reading for so long. So it's been so beautiful to be able to pick up a book, and not be just doom scrolling on Instagram or whatever it is that we do.
I know we can get sucked in. Emma, what is your number one self-care go-to with, while you're going through so much, you're writing a book, you've got a podcast, you're, make time for wellness website, you have a lot on your plate. So, what are you doing for you? What's your favorite go-to that you just like, this is a non-negotiable?
Yeah, I mean, I have a couple. For me, it's also movement. I think it's really important for me to get out. If it's, strength training or going for a walk, or I really love to hike, just getting out in nature. There's something about it that's just peaceful, and I can hear the birds chirping, and there's just something nice about connecting with nature, just sort of like brings it all back to, square one. And connection. I think that has been my lifeline, is being able to see my friends more, not texting, actually picking up the phone to call. And I love what we're doing at Make Time. I really love being able to connect with other women. I love being able to educate women. So there's a lot of things that I do to keep fuel in the engine. So important.
Well, I thank you both for your time. The beauty shift is my whole mission with this podcast, is to put the emphasis less on outer beauty and more on internal beauty, and what we as women can do to really shake up this industry and think differently about what beauty is. And both of you come from a beauty industry background.
Yeah.
And so, in closing, what would you like to see that shift be in the beauty industry?
I love this question. So thank you. I really would like the beauty industry to get behind the 1 out of 5 conversation, because they've raised so much awareness for breast cancer. And I would really love, and this is a call for our beauty industry colleagues, to really raise awareness for women's brain health, because we're at risk. We need a lot of women to start having this conversation and get the world talking seriously about women's brain health, because I know as women, especially with the beauty business behind us, we can change this statistic.
Well, especially when you see that movement when it came to breast cancer, they did such an incredible job, right? Like, I don't forget about my mammograms or ultrasounds. it's so on our radar. And I think you're absolutely right. It would be beautiful for the industry, the beauty industry, to really start thinking about women's brain health.
I love that. Well, I am here to witness it firsthand, but I feel you two are doing just that. And thank you so much for what you're doing to raise awareness, to create a huge shift, to provide resources for not only women, but people all over the world who are caretakers and need the support and need to know that they're not alone. You both are incredibly strong women who are doing incredible things. And I know also, while Emma, you and your family are in our prayers with everything that you're going through during this difficult time. So thank you so much for your time and all you're doing. And I got goosebumps when you were talking about shifting the beauty industry to make this more of a movement that we all get behind. So I'm with you. Anything I can do to support you both in that, you please let me know.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having us. This was a fun conversation.
Yeah, and thank you for all you do, because I think it's just really important. You're also having this conversation, and so we're here to support you too.
Thank you both so much. You're amazing.
You too.
What an inspiring and deeply needed conversation. I want to thank Emma and Helen from the bottom of my heart for sharing their personal journeys, their wisdom, and their passion for creating a new conversation around women's wellness. One that reminds us that taking care of ourselves isn't selfish, it's essential. And today was a powerful reminder that our health, our brain, and our bodies need and deserve our attention and love. Not tomorrow, not when things settle down, today. Because when we make time for ourselves, we show up better for everyone else. If you want to learn more about the incredible work of Emma and Helen, visit maketimewellness.com. And if this conversation touched you, please share it with a friend who might need this reminder today. And as always, thank you for joining me here on The Beauty Shift. If you haven't yet, make sure you subscribe, leave a review, and continue this journey with me as we redefine beauty, confidence, and thriving at every stage of life. So until next time, take care of you. You're worth it. Thank you so much for joining us today on The Beauty Shift. I want to take a moment to thank our sponsor, Keranique, America's #1 hair regrowth system created by women for women. I hope you enjoyed the show, and if you did, please feel free to share with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. And if you'd like to receive my free beauty and wellness gifts, just go to my website, michellephillips.com. I also invite you to join my social media community on Facebook and Instagram, Michelle Phillips Beauty.